Today, let's explore the statistical aspects behind biology and science in general. This is very useful when analyzing quantitative data. The main methods used, or functions used, when analyzing this quantitative data are the mean, median, mode, and lastly, standard deviation. So what exactly is the mean? The mean, also known as the average, is the sum of all the data divided by the elements that have been added up. So it's the sum over the number of, I'm just going to write E elements, E for elements, that were summed up right there. This is really important when doing multiple trials, and you need to have one value that represents the multiple trials. The median is the quote-unquote middle value. This value lies in the middle of the data when set up in order. The mode is quote-unquote the popular value. And all this means is that this value is reoccurring in the data and it shows up more than one time or more than the other values in the data. The standard deviation is the variation. It's a measure of the variation in the data. So this value can be found by taking the square root of, so I'm going to call any element in the data x for now. So x minus the mean, whole thing squared, and it should be the sum of all of these x minus means. So if there were 3 numbers in the data, then there should be 3 x values. So we add that, and then we just do the other x values. So I'm going to call this x2 minus mean plus x3 minus mean, all of this squared, and so on and so forth. Now all of this is divided by the number of elements in the data. This can be really important to understand the general distribution and trend of the data. One way of representing the data is by creating a graph. A graph, commonly known as a bell curve, this is a shape of a graph, is also known as the normal distribution. This type of distribution or variation tends to show up a lot in nature in general. So a bell curve would look something like this. One standard deviation, also known as a z-score. So z-score is one standard deviation is what sets apart these values. This would be considered one z-score, and this is also one z-score. This is in the positive direction and the negative direction. This section would contain 34% of the data, while the other section also contains 34% of the data. So in total, 68% of the data in a normal distribution or in a bell curve is within the first z-score.